Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews unboxing. Today we're looking at the Cities of Sigmar Army set for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So first of all, I want to say a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a free review copy to unbox on the site, do a review of and check out on the website. In this video we're going to be checking out the new box, seeing the new miniatures that are inside, building them up, painting them, and then checking out all the goodies that come in the box, such as the Battletome as well, and seeing how the Cities of Sigmar play in the 3rd edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to. The Cities of Sigmar in the past has always kind of been the home of the old Warhammer Fantasy kits that didn't really have anywhere to go. So all the old kind of like Empire and the Wood Elves and High Elves and Dark Elves and Dwarves all ended up kind of amalgamated together in a book that let you use those old armies, but they didn't really have many new kits. And the new Cities of Sigmar release from Games Workshop, that definitely changes things about by having a brand new aesthetic for them, loads and loads of new kits coming, and the initial kind of release for this is this army set. If we flip this over, we'll see what comes in here. An awful lot. So as well as the Battletome and all the kind of the cards and stuff that you'd expect in there, you get brand new kits, the whole kind of initial launch wave. We've got a couple more kits that are following after this, some more characters, and a couple more kind of kits that are in a kind of follow-up wave. But we get all the kind of the core bits to build your army in here. So we've got the Free Guild Steel Helms, which are a new infantry kit, the Free Guild Cavalier, which is basically a new kind of interpretation of the Empire Knights. We get the Free Guild Marshal and Relic Envoy, and the Alchemite Warforger. So all these brand new kits that come out in this box, and I suspect they'll get released separately when the main Cities of Sigmar release comes alongside the Battletome itself. So yeah, what we're going to do is have a look at all these, see how they go together, see what cool stuff is on those sprues, and like I say, I'm going to paint these up as well. So we'll kind of decide that as we're going through the Battletome to see which city we think we're going to go for. But yeah, without further ado, should we crack this open and see what is inside? So the RRP of this box is £120, which is pretty good considering you get all those kits and the limited edition Battletome too. So as you see, as ever with these kind of sets, it is fit to burst with sprues. So let's have a look at some of these. First of all, let's have a look at the Alchemite, the wizard for the Cities of Sigmar. And you know what, I really like the kind of concept of this, that this is more kind of alchemical rather than magical. And it's a really nice kit. Again, these have got a really cool new aesthetic that is more Age of Sigmar than the old Warhammer Fantasy stuff that we previously had. Also in there we get the Free Guild Marshal, who comes with his little Relic Envoy. Again, some really nice details on this kit. Now this kit here actually has quite a few different ways of assembling it. You've got a whole host of weapon options. So again, we'll have a look through the rulebook and see kind of what they do. I'm thinking potentially the kind of artillery heavy Cities of Sigmar force. So yeah, we might go something with guns for this guy just to kind of represent that. But yeah, really cool kit there. We then get the new Cavalier sprue. So these are the new cavalry, and again they look so cool. Really nice kind of style to these. Lots of space for designs, and as we'll see in a little bit, you do actually get, I think, about 4 sheets of transfers in this box, so that you can have all your heraldry and stuff done with just transfers, which is a great idea. And again, I think all the kind of the main cities are represented there, along with some like generic symbols as well if you want to invent your own cities. But yeah, that's one of the sprues, and then we get a double sprue as well. So quite a big kit for this one, and they look really nice. At the time of filming this, I don't know if these can be battle line. I imagine there'll probably be some, you know, the usual if X is your general, then these can be battle line. We see that for a lot of kits now, in order to I guess maximise the number of different types of armies that you can build. The Cities of Sigmar have always had a lot of that in the past anyway, with, you know, steam tanks as battle line and the like, which I believe is still an option in here if you want to do that. But honestly, I think I'm going to be focusing on these brand new kits. And then you get 2 of the new infantry sprues as well, so that builds 20 models in total over 2 squads. And again, the details on here are so nice. That banner in particular looks absolutely amazing. So yeah, really looking forward to building these guys up and seeing all the different options on the frames. Yeah, they look really cool. Looks like there's lots of different weapons as well, so you're probably going to be able to build some quite varied units, which is nice. Lots of shields too, and again those shields, if we have a look at the reverse of the sprue, actually have a flat space for you to put a decal on. So yeah, transfers are plenty in the box. Obviously, if you are feeling adventurous, you could probably freehand something onto those platforms, onto those surfaces as well. So really nice kind of flat space for you to put those on. Again, another look at the other half of that and the awesome looking banner. So yeah, really nice kit. So yeah, you get 2 of those frames, but that's not everything in the box. So if we take the cover off here, we'll see the contents and all the paper stuff that you get, and there's quite a lot of stuff in here which is nice to see. So we've got the instruction manual. You get a nice sheet of cards for the orders. So this is a new mechanic in the Cities of Sigmar, and basically you put down orders face down onto your units, onto your heroes, sorry, and then they have different effects. We'll look at these in more detail when we look through the Battletome, but you get really nice kind of thick chunky cardstock with all of these on, with all of the different symbols to represent which order you've put on, a little punch out bits to give you a reminder of what they do as well, which is really handy if you put them on the battlefield. So yeah, really like that that's included. We get the Battletome itself, which is a big hefty book, really nice limited edition with kind of gilt edging on it. Really nice. So again, we'll be looking at that in a little bit in the review in a bit more detail. We get bases for everything in here, as you'd expect. We also get a couple more things. Let's get these out of here so I can show you properly. Now, the one that surprised me the most was the transfer sheet. So we move this out of the way, and you get 4, I think it's 4, yeah, 4 transfer sheets that look really good. So these represent all the various free cities, and they're used to basically go on those flat surfaces, so you've got the nice heraldry without having to freehand it. I know some people would be quite worried about doing. So yeah, loads and loads of options there, which is cool, including like the intricate settlers gain symbol. Yeah, loads of stuff there that you can do, which is really nice. Some nice kind of metallic-y ones as well. I'm thinking of going grey water fastness because I've got a lot of steam tanks and I want lots of kind of cannons and guns and stuff. And I've got an old Cities of Sigmar Army that was done in the classic green and yellow grey water fastness scheme. I think it's changed a little bit in this book to black and yellow. But yeah, really nice that you get those transfer sheets, and you get so many of them as well. You've got probably spares there to be able to put some of them on your existing Cities of Sigmar Army too, which is really nice. You also get a couple of card decks as well. So this is an Enhancements deck, and it's got loads of stuff here for reference. So in addition to your stuff like the orders that I mentioned earlier, which arguably you also get on little card punch outs that I think look a little bit nicer, you also get all of your kind of warlord traits and relics and spells and all the stuff that you'd kind of want during a battle. I find these cards really handy to be able to put next to the unit to indicate what they've got. I find that really useful. Again, we'll look at these in more detail when we look through the Battletome itself, but that's really nice. And you also get a full deck of Warscroll cards as well. This is something that they did with the Slaves of Darkness release, and yeah, really good. So again, if you've not seen these before, essentially these are cards with the stats of your units on, so that you can leave them open on the battlefield to remind you what all the units do. So really nice to see the full set included in here. Sometimes you get them where it's just the contents of the box, but yeah, the entire army stuff's in there. And again, on the back of it, you also get some little card tokens as well, with your battle tactics and various kind of tokens that you can do to indicate different buffs and effects on your units. Again, we'll look into all that when we look through the Battletome itself, but yeah, really happy to see them included. Before we jump on to the Battletome though, just want to have a quick look at how the new kits go together. Like I say, some of them have got quite a lot of options on them. If you look at the Free Guild Marshal here, you've got quite a few different weapon options. You know, there's shields, there's pistols, there's like a sword and carrying his helmet, which is really nice. I'm looking forward to having a play with that and seeing what you can do. You could probably kit bash it with some other parts from your collection as well to make something really unique looking. Likewise, the cavalry are quite modular looking, so you've got some standard parts that go together and then you can mix and match between your different horses, which is nice. Again, they look a really nice kit, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the Bretonnians in the old world, whether we get some nice new cavalry kits for them too. But yeah, I'm super keen on building up some horses because I think they look amazing. It was really nice in this book as well. You get a nice little indicator down here that shows you where each transfer is positioned on the model too, which is a really nice touch. So you know, you're not going to mess things up by putting them in the wrong place. You've got a little kind of indicator there telling you which transfer goes where on the model, so that's really nice. And then we get the Free Guild Steel Helms, the new infantry unit. Again, fairly straightforward. Each model seems to have a couple of different builds, so if you have got 20 in your army, they're all going to look a little bit different, which is nice. So yeah, really cool kit. So what we're going to do now is have a look at the Cities of Sigmar Battletome and see what's changed for the army. So let's dig into the new book and see what's new for the Cities of Sigmar. And I've got to say, it's a big chunky book. There's about 160 pages in there, which is about 30 pages bigger than the previous book that they had. So even though a lot of units have been removed, so all of the old High Elf units, all of the Wood Elf units, some of the old Empire kits have all gone. All the Dwarfs are still there, and all the Dark Elves are still there. Now I suspect that this is all in relation to the old world. Now we know that Empire, Wood Elves, High Elves are going to be in the initial releases for the old world. Dwarves are mentioned on the Warcom articles about the old world too, but it could be that maybe they're a little bit later in the release schedule. All of the units that have been removed from this book do seem to be those ones where, you know, let's face it, Cities of Sigmar always was the army with all the old Warhammer Fantasy models in it, and it looks like those ones that are hitting the early wave of old world releases have moved out of here. But what that has done is freed up the opportunity for Games Workshop to put in some brand new models designed for Age of Sigmar with their own aesthetic, their own look, which is really cool. So yeah, if you've got some of those old kits, I mean, worst case, you can probably proxy some of the stuff in here with them. But honestly, I think that those new Cities of Sigmar models just look amazing compared to the old Empire kits. And we've got a bit of a weird disconnect in here that, yes, we've got all this awesome new stuff for the humans, and some of the stuff like the Luminarch and the Steam Tank and stuff still kind of fits with that. Where the Dwarden and the Elves in here seem a little bit disjointed because they're all made up of older models. So I kind of hope that we get, you know, maybe another wave of Cities of Sigmar in the future that updates some of the old Dwarf and Elf kits. But yeah, it's a big old book with a load of profiles in. So as ever, we get a nice big chunky lore section to start us, which is really good because this brings us up to date on, you know, what the Cities of Sigmar are doing, what the Dawnbringer Crusades are. Obviously we've got this concept in 3rd edition that Sigmar's sending out these Dawnbringer Crusades to basically found new cities, but they're out in the wilds of the mortal realms, so it's, you know, it's difficult and dangerous to get there, so he sends these vast armies to go and do that. And as we see later on in the book, that's kind of the concept for the Path to Glory stuff in here, that you are on these Dawnbringer crusades setting out to found these cities. Obviously you get a few new characters in here as well, so they all get a nice mention, a nice bit of a write-up. It is way more in depth than the previous one. Really feels like the Cities of Sigmar are getting their own identity rather than just being the, I guess, the remnants of the old world. Some really, really nice artwork in here too. You know, they always knock it out the park with the artwork and the lore in Age of Sigmar recently. A lot of people mock it for being... Early on, yes, it was Stormcast versus Khorne for what seems like forever for the first edition of the game, but since then, since all the kind of narrative arcs that have kind of closed off editions and opened new ones, the lore of Age of Sigmar has grown massively, and Cities of Sigmar are a great example of that. They're getting their own identity now, their own kind of like feel. These are what humans are in the mortal realms, which we haven't really seen before on the battlefield, which is cool. As we'll see later on in the rule section, how those units operate on the battle is a lot different than how Cities of Sigmar armies in the past worked, which is why it is a bit of a shame that some of the older kits, you know, the old Dark Elves and the old Dwarfs, do feel a little bit disconnected from that. I really would like to see new updated models for them. I was kind of hoping that we'd see like mixed race units, maybe like humans with a dwarf and an elf in there, but I assume that as things go on, we'll see, you know, the range expanded and a lot of those old kits maybe get phased out. Speaking of the new kits, obviously this is in the army set, which is out now. The points in the back of the book are dated November, so it's potentially a little bit of a wait until we get the main release, but we do get images of all the awesome new miniatures in here, and I've got to say there's some really cool stuff. The Cavalier Marshal. We've got a beautiful shot of Talia here. She's the kind of like leader of Hammerfall, and she is such a cool looking model with her manticore. Really, really excited to pick this up. So obviously we'll see the rules for these as we go through the review, but really, really nice kind of showcase section in the middle. We also did get some really nice painting guides in here too. I think it's on the next page, where a lot of the old Age of Sigmar books sometimes have a bit of recycled painting content between the Battletomes. In this one we get some absolutely beautiful new painting guides that are really good, that go into all the different Cities of Sigmar, all the ways to paint the shields. We saw the transfers earlier, and all the miniatures have got a nice little kind of like flat surface for you to paint up and put those transfers on, which makes them look really cool. After we've looked at the book, I've painted up one of each of the units in this box as well, so we can see what they look like in the flesh. But yeah, really nice detailed painting guide, which is massively appreciated, especially with these all being new models as well. It's nice to have the information in the Battletome showing you how to paint them. But I'm sure most people will be interested watching this in the actual army, how it works, how it goes together, and what new mechanics they've got. And the Cities of Sigmar have got some really, really fun stuff. So we still get to pick a city, but it's been expanded out to a load more. I think there's 11 in total, all with their own unique styles, all really kind of tailored around a type of list that you might bring for your games. So there might be a city that, you know, favours artillery, for example, or a city that favours monsters. Again, we'll see all these in a little while. That lets you design the kind of army that you want to and pick the city that fits right for it, which is nice. The other new mechanic are orders. So if you think kind of like the fusion of the Astra Militarum orders in 40k and the reaction system in Horus Heresy, and you're kind of part way there. Basically, there's a number of different orders that you can issue to your heroes, and those heroes can then reveal those orders during the course of the game. So they're all placed face down at the start of the battle round, so your opponent knows that there's orders down, but they don't know what they are, and basically they'll do different things. They normally affect nearby units within 3 inches, or you pick a unit within 3 inches, and there's a number of things that you can do with them, which we'll cover on the next page. One of the things to keep in mind though is that only certain heroes can receive certain units. So there's some general Cities of Sigmar ones that anyone can have, and then there's human, dwarven and elf orders that can only be ordered to specific heroes of that type. So if we flip over, we'll have a look at all the orders that are available. Now you do get some general ones. Advanced information can be issued to any hero, and basically friendly units within 3 inches of them at the start of the movement phase get 3 inches additional movement, which is really cool for getting your relatively slow troops across the battlefield. And in addition, your Castellite units keep their fortified position ability. So we'll see later on, a lot of the ranged abilities, the ranged units have got better shooting profiles if they stand still, and they ignore negative rend modifiers if they stand still. So obviously normally if they move they lose that. If they move under this advanced information rule though, they get to retain them, which is really, really cool. We've also got counter charge, which is a really powerful one. At the end of the charge phase, you pick one of your the end of the enemy charge phase, you pick one of your units within 3 inches of your hero with the order, and they can attempt to charge. So basically it lets you charge in the enemy charge phase, which is really cool. So being able to like counter charge in with cavalry and stuff is a really cool concept. Then we come on to the human orders. So one of the ones that I think a lot of people would be doing is return fire. So this does what it says on the tin. Basically, if you have your hero with the order on and a unit is shot within 3 inches of that, that unit can shoot. Now, it doesn't actually state that that unit has to shoot the unit that shot them, just that they can shoot. So, say if Unit A shoots your, unit of Fusiliers, that unit of Fusiliers can then do the return fire order and shoot either at Unit A that fired at them, or maybe Unit B that's on an objective that they want to try and clear off it. So quite a powerful ability, that's really fun. Similarly, with a kind of shooty theme, is suppressing fire. With this one, if you shoot a unit, you basically roll 2d6, add the number of models that have been slain to the result, and if you beat the target's bravery, then that unit is suppressed and they get the strikes last rule, which is really cool. So you can basically shoot a unit to kind of suppress them, ready for combat, and then, with a combination of some of the characters in here who've got a strike first rule on a charge, with the ability to make a unit of knights fight after them. So by suppressing key units, you can kind of make it that all your units can fight before the opponent does. So really, really cool one. You've also got Engage the Foe. This is a pretty good one. It gives a unit within 3 inches +1 attacks to their melee weapons. And again, the opponent doesn't know what orders are down, so you can get people quite paranoid about these return fire orders when actually they've got a different order on them. So there's some mind games that you can play with your opponent, which is pretty fun. We then get 2 Dwarden ones. So Shield Wall basically gives your unit the strikes last rule because they're going into a defensive stance, so they're not actively attacking, but it does give them a 5+ ward save. So that's pretty cool. And Grim Last Stand means that if a Dwarden dies, they bounce back mortal wounds on a 5+, which is pretty cool. Strike them down. This is basically the old, remember in Warhammer Fantasy, elves had always strikes first. This basically gives them that. So you pick an elf unit and they get the strikes first rule. And then we've got Swift Disengage. That lets you disengage at the end of the combat phase, again freeing you up to do more stuff in your following turn. So yeah, really cool. You can't put the same order down more than 3 times. There are some ways to stack multiple orders on stuff as well with some of the units in the book, so there's some quite clever stuff you can do with these, and I really like this mechanic. It makes it quite a fun army to play when you're revealing all these. You've got little kind of tricks and ploys you can play on your opponents. One thing that has shifted quite a lot in this book is that all the enhancements are no longer tied to the cities. So we've seen this in, quite a few Age of Sigmar books, in this edition. The cities are, the subfactions are completely separate to the enhancement. So you're not tied into a certain set of spells and command traits just for being in a certain city. So I know a lot of Age of Sigmar players will be happy to see that for the Cities of Sigmar. They are split again into the races, so humans get the biggest share of them. So for the command traits, Divine Champion makes your general become a priest, and they get a prayer that lets them add 1 to the wound rolls of nearby Cities of Sigmar units, so that's really strong. Grizzle Veteran means that your hero can only be wounded on a 4+, pretty handy. Master of Ballistics I can see being taken in a lot of armies and in a specific city as well. So Grey Water Fastness is the shooty army, and this Master of Ballistics trait means that when they issue all-out attack, in addition to getting +1 to hit, they get +1 to wound for ranged weapons. So that's really cool. But that combos really nicely with Grey Water Fastness that we've seen a little bit, where you get to issue all-out attack for ranged shots to 3 units for 1 command point. And again, comboed with this command trait, each of them will get +1 to wound as well. So yeah, I can see this one being a really, really popular one. And then finally, Fiery Temper lets you reroll charge rolls within 18 inches of the general. So I think the Master of Ballistics one's going to be the most popular one. But there's some cool stuff to be done with the other ones. I quite like the prayer for +1 to wound on your melee attacks. The Dwarf didn't get 3 as well. Of Mighty Lineage, the Dwarf can basically issue a challenge. He gets strikes last, but all attacks have to target him, so he basically takes the hits for the rest of the army. Insurmountable Resilience. At the end of the combat phase, you roll the dice for each wound that he's lost, and on a 3+ he gets it back. And Master of the Ancient Law, he becomes a priest, and if he's already a priest, he gets an additional prayer, and the prayers are pretty good. And then for the elves, we've got Unparalleled Duelist. This is pretty good. If somebody hits you and misses, they take a mortal wound. The Secretive Warlock, you add 1 to casting and unbinding rolls. And then Draconic Blood Pact is just for your characters on a dragon. You take a mortal wound, and in return your dragon gets +1 attacks on all its profile. So that's pretty cool. I think the human ones are the stronger ones though. Artifact of Power again are split into the 3 races. So for the humans we get the Brazier of Holy Flame. This is pretty good. So if a model flees within 12 inches on a 4+, they don't flee. So basically after you've done your battle shock, if people are running away, you're going to keep half of them on average. Mastro Vivity's Magnificent Macroscope is another one that I think is going to be quite popular. It adds 3 to the range of all missile weapons used by friendly models within 12 inches, so that's pretty handy. We've got the Shemtek's Grimoire. That's a 1-use magic item. Basically it reduces the enemy cast rolls by D3. Not too much of a fan of that one since it's only 1 use. If it was on all the time, that'd be pretty good. And I guess outside of that 1 turn where you're shooting down magic, it's not going to have any effect. We've got the Sigmite Warhammer that I quite like. It improves the rend and damage of one of the weapons. Stuff like the Marshal can have a pretty nice weapon with that. The Flask of Leatherston Darkwater, that's a once per use heal of D6 wounds. And the Glimmering, once per phase, you can reroll a hit, a wound or a save. So yeah, pretty good. I think again, I think we'll see a lot of shooty lists, and I think we'll see a lot of the macroscope with that. For the dwarfs, we've got the Book of Grudges. Basically, you pick an enemy unit, and on a 4+, you add 1 to hit rolls for all friendly Dwarden until you pick another unit to put a grudge on. We've got the Power Driver Gauntlet. This is quite cool. He basically forsakes his attacks to punch the ground, and all nearby units on a 4+ get the strike last. So there's lots of things on here that apply strike last, strike first to things. So you've got quite a lot of tools for managing combat sequencing. And then the Heavy Metal Gauntlet, you ignore all modifiers to save rolls for the bearer if they don't move. So they can just stand still and they can tank massive rend attacks, which is pretty cool. And then for the elves, we've got the Shadow Shroud Ring. Basically makes them invisible so they can't be targeted if they're more than 12 inches away from the enemy. We've got the Venom Fang Blade. Any wound of 6 does D3 mortal wounds in addition to any other damage. And we've got the Anklet of Epiphany. It adds 6 inches to the range of spells as long as they're on a terrain feature or an objective. So some nice stuff there. Now spells have changed quite a bit as well, and they've got very much a Warhammer Fantasy vibe. There's now 8 spells, 1 for each of the different winds of magic, and they are very reminiscent, even down to the spells being identical really to a lot of old world spells. So we've got Fireball, that's your usual, roll a number of dice for the number of models in the unit. Each 6 does a mortal wound. We've got Mystifying Miasma. That stops an enemy unit from running, and they subtract 2 from their charge rolls. Pall of Doom. Be an enemy within range, they cannot issue or receive commands, so that's quite a powerful one. Fast protection, you ignore modifiers to save rolls, so that's pretty cool. Rain of Jade is a healing spell. It's quite handy on some of your big monsters and stuff. You basically roll the dice for each wound that's been lost, and on a 5+ you get it back, so that's pretty handy. Transmutation of Lead is just like the old one back in the old world. So you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the unit, and for each dice that's over their save characteristic, they take a mortal wound. So it's better on heavily armoured units. That is the only spell the Alchemist can have. And then Twin-Tailed Comet, you pick an enemy unit, that unit takes D3 mortal wounds, and you draw a line between that target and your wizard, and all friendly units underneath that line become Bravery 10. And then we've got Wild Form, which you put on a unit and it allows them to charge 18 inches with a 3d6 charge. So nice selection of spells there. The Elves also have a trio. So Sap Strength, enemy units -1 to wound. You've got Umbral Hex. You basically, they have to do Battle Shock on 2 dice rather than 1, so it makes it more likely they'll fail Battle Shock. And then we've got the Tenebral Blades. It makes enemy save characteristic 0, so they don't get a save against weapons, so that's quite cool. We then get some prayers for the dwarves. So the Rune of Unfaltering Aim adds 1 to hit rolls for missile weapons for one of your units. The Rune of Oath and Steel, you subtract 1 from wound rolls that target them. And then the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, you basically roll 6 dice for each 5+ to take a mortal wound, and if they take 3 or more, they ignore modifiers to their saves. They can't do all-out defense and stuff, so that's a pretty cool one. So as part of building your army, you select one of the 3 cities to be from. Like I say, there's 11 of them now, which gives you quite a lot of variety in how it works. Hammerhal is the kind of, I guess, the main city, the colour scheme that the box is painted at. That's actually how I've painted mine as well, just because I like the flourishes of red on there. I think it looks cool. There's kind of like 2-tier. So 1 unit in your army can be given 2 orders rather than just 1, which is quite nice to be able to put the move faster order and the return fire order on a hero, for example. Gives you some options on what to do. In addition to that, if Avantis Fire strikes in your army at the start of your hero phase, you get an additional command point as well. So that's quite nice from a lore point of view, because obviously he's the Magister of the city. So, and it's a really nice model as well. I believe he gives a passive +1 to hit for Cities of Sigmar units for models nearby as well. So if you are going to ally in a Stormcast model, that's a good one to do, and it fits very flavourfully with Hammerhal. Tempest Eye is the Caradron friendly city, and it lets all Caradron overlords, sky vessels, retreat and still shoot. So that's really good. Hallow Heart is one of your wizardy ones. You can choose to basically overcharge your casting and do them on 3d6, but if you ever roll more than a 10, you take d3 mortal wounds, so a bit of a gambling mechanic to get some more powerful casts off. Hammerhal Gyra, the other half of the twin city of Hammerhal. This one gives you an increased number of reinforced units you can have, and you also have Bravery 10 across your army as well, so that's pretty handy. The Living City is the Sylvaneth friendly one. They've still got the Living Paths rule where you can leave things off the board and bring them on board edges, which is pretty fun. Greywater Fastness, I think, is probably going to be the most popular one in this book. This is the Shooty army, and as mentioned earlier, you can issue all-out attack 3 times and it only costs you 1 command point. You combine that with the trait that makes all-out attack +1 to hit and +1 to wound, and that becomes very, very powerful with some of the stuff that we've got in here. So I think a lot of people will be going for that. Lethis is like the priest city, so all your non-wizard heroes become priests as well, which is really good. And you get a priest that turns off that turns off ward saves, so that's a pretty good pick as well. Vindicarum is a nice one. So units can receive the rally command while they're within 3 inches of enemy units, and flagellants come back on a 5+ rather than a 6+ for rally. Now if you take Talia, as we're seeing a little bit, she's actually got an ability that lets you rally on a 4+ as well, so that's really strong. Excelsis is your kind of monster and cavalry heavy army. So your monsters have got an extra wound, and your cavalry basically do some like impact hits at the end of combat. So once they finish fighting, you roll a dice for each model, and on a 4+ you cause a mortal wound. Settler's Gain is the other magic-y city that you've got. Basically you have +1 to casting rolls across your entire army, and if your general is stood near a Lumineth model in the command phase, you get an extra command point, which is really cool. And then Misthaven's your sneaky kind of scoundrel piratey army, and they've got some shenanigans where you can pick 3 units in the hero phase and give them a D6 move or a 2D6 move if they've got a mount. So lots of movement shenanigans in that one. So nice selection of different cities with a range of different abilities. So quite like that. We then get the Path to Glory stuff, and this is really fun. Most of the time in Path to Glory you start off with a settlement and you're kind of building that and adding kind of territories and stuff to it. For the Cities of Sigmar, that's different. You start off as a fresh Dawnbringer Crusade, striking out into the realms to try and found a city. So initially you start off just kind of exploring, searching out, trying to build up these crusade points. Once you've got 25 of them, you can then found your city. So narratively that's really, really fun. You kind of like venture out into the wilderness. You're kind of basically following the lore for these armies that are moving across the realm to find a decent spot to found a city. And then you get a unique battle plan once you get to that point, where you're basically fighting off against waves of enemy hordes. So the opponent can give units the horde keyword, and that means that they can come back once they're dead. So you're basically fighting off the hordes as you're trying to found this city. So I really like Path to Glory content that gives you a nice, fun narrative hook like that. I think it really adds to the army. So then we get to the match play section. Like with most of the armies, we get 4 grand strategies. The first one's the vanilla, do 4 battle tactics out of here. I do think that one's going to be a little bit harder for these than other armies that we've had in 3rd edition. Reclaim for Sigmar requires a unit in each quarter of the battlefield by the end of the game. Hold the high ground, you have to have models within 12 inches of the centre, with no enemy models within 12 inches, that's a little bit harder. My favourite of the grand strategies is banners held high. Basically, if you've got more standard bearers and totems than your opponent, then you win. So that's quite a fun one, because you've got lots of banners on your units and it just looks cool on the battlefield. As for battle tactics, again, I think these are a little bit harder than some that we've seen. Bring full arms to bear. You basically have to suppress a unit using the suppressing order. That one's not too bad, pretty easy to get. Raise the banner. You've got to hold an objective with a free guild command corps banner bearer. So again, depending on your list, you might not have that in there. So if you do want to get get all the battle tactics one, you're gonna have to have a decent variety. Black powder bombardment. Kill 3 enemy units with shooting. Mount the charge. You've got to control an objective, and every model controlling that objective has to have a mount and has to have charged. So again, a little bit more niche. Strike without warning is an elf specific one where 3 friendly elf units made a charge, and then Iron Might, 3 Dwarden units had to fight and no friendly Dwarden units get destroyed. So again, I think that's a little bit of a harder one. We also get a core battalion revolving around all the shooty stuff. But yeah, let's have a look at the Warscrolls. Now what we're going to do is focus on the new ones. A lot of stuff on here has changed. Some of the profiles have, differed a little bit. On the whole, things are better than they were previously. But to save this video being like 3 hours long, I'm just going to focus on the new models that have been introduced in this book. So first up, we've got Talia Vedra. She's the new kind of like named leader character, and she's really cool. She's on that Manticore, and she's pretty good in combat. So a nice bit of punch for your forces. 6 attacks with a weapon. Now the model does come with different multiple weapon options, but that doesn't affect the rules. They all count as the same, so basically just pick whichever one you think looks cooler. I think you've got the choice of like a mace or a sword, so whatever you really like to put on it, you can do without affecting the rules, which is cool. But yeah, 6 attacks with that, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage. Then the Jaws of the Lion, 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounds on 3s, -2 rend, 3 damage. Then the Stinger itself, 3-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, -3 rend, and D3 plus 3 damage. So pretty good combat character. Really though, she's there for her awesome support abilities. So you can give her 2 orders instead of 1, which is pretty nice. She's got 6+ ward save, 15 wounds. She's got the lead from the front ability, which I think is the strongest thing about her. If she's within engagement range of enemy models, she can issue the rally order and 2 models that are in combat and do it on a 4+. So that's really, really strong. Your big blocks of cavalry or your big units, half of them are coming back whenever she does a rally, and obviously you can do it in combat too with that. Really, really good. I really rate her. She's got a unique monstrous rampage she can do as well against other monsters, and it gives them strikes last. So again, more strikes last kind of rules ticking in throughout the army. We've then got Pontifex Zenestra, and again I think she's going to be another really, really popular one. She's a priest, but she can dispel or unbind a spell, and she gets +1 to doing so. She's got 4+ ward save. Her main ability though is her prayer. So it's answered on a value of 3. If you're in your territory, you get to pick 1 ability. If you're not in your territory, you get to pick 2 abilities, and all the abilities are really good. So the first one is that all Cities of Sigmar have a 5+ ward save while they're within 18 inches of her. So that's really strong. The Great Wheel turns, gives all your models extra 2-inch move wherever they are on the battlefield. And obviously that will combo with the movement order as well, so you can get things moving an extra 5 inches each turn, which is really good for getting on objectives. And finally, she can cause every single wizard and priest on the battlefield to take D3 mortal wounds on a roll of a 2+. So yeah, really, really good. I think she's going to be popular. In addition, at the start of the combat phase and after she fights, roll the dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So really, really good unit. I think she's really cheap. I think she's like 150 points as well. So yeah, definitely one that you're going to be bringing in your army. Like I said, we're going to skip over some of the old units and just focus on the new ones. The Free Guild Marshal and the Relic Envoy is one of the new models that we've actually painted up. Let's see if that'll focus on here. So this is the new model. Really, really nice model as well. I enjoyed painting it up. So he's like your on-foot leader, and he comes with the Relic Envoy, who basically carry around a guy's head on a stick for some reason. But he's quite cool, so he's a pretty decent combat character. You can give him a Warhammer, which means he's got 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, -2 rend, 3 damage. If you give him the Artifact Warhammer, that becomes -3 rend, 4 damage, which is really good. And there's lots of ways to get +1 to hit in here. His little Relic Envoy is basically a marker for his ability, so he can either leave it on himself, in which case he can do a heroic action in addition to any other heroic action that you've done that turn, or he can give it to another unit, and that unit gets their first command for free. And that can be done in every hero phase, so that's pretty cool. He also gets a unique heroic action, Arousing Speech, that lets friendly units count as 2 models for the purposes of objectives, so he's quite cool. We've also got the Cavalier Marshal. He is a similar kind of role. He's your leader on a horse, but he massively buffs your cavalry units. So he's got a cool ability for Sigmar Charge. All your friendly cavaliers within 12 inches get +3 to their charge roll. So that's pretty nice to kind of get your horses into the fight. And in addition, when he charges, he gets strikes first, and then he lets a unit of cavaliers fight immediately after him too. So again, you've got some early attacks, you've got lots of ways of giving things strikes last to try and get as much of your army fighting before the opponent. So he's pretty cool. We've got the Alchemite Warforger. This is an interesting unit. It's a wizard, but he's got some other non-wizardy abilities. So he can cast spells at +1, which is cool. He takes Transmutation of Lead, and he also gets Blazing Weapons, which makes it so that a hit roll of 6 does a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So that's pretty cool. If you choose not to cast a spell with him though, he gives all Cities of Sigmar within 12 inches +1 save. So like a 12-inch all-out defense bubble if you don't cast a spell. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, quite like that guy. Let's flip through to the next new unit that we've got. The Free Guild Command Corps. So these are an interesting one. They basically can act as a bodyguard for your marshal. So they can be, I want to say attached, but they don't have to like be deployed with him or move with him. They can be associated with a marshal model, and basically as long as they're nearby that marshal, the marshal gets a 4+ ward save. But it's not like 40k where the model's attached to that unit. It's just if they're within 3 inches of it, you get the ward save. So that's pretty good. And then each of the models in there gets a different special rule. So the Sawbones is really good. Basically, at the end of the hero phase, you pick 3 friendly Cities of Sigmar units within 12 inches, and he can heal them D3 wounds or bring back D3 wounds worth of models. So you have got summoning in your Cities of Sigmar now. The Spy's pretty good. He can stop a command from going through on a 4+. The Great Herald with the banner. He gives friendly units +1 to run and charge, and when your friendly units retreat they can move D3 inches further, which is pretty good. And then the weird guy with the skeleton with a flute, basically he makes it so that when models flee in a 4+ they don't, so that's pretty good. The Free Guild Steel Helms are basically your stock infantry, 2 attacks each, but they're only hitting and wounding on 4s. But they're quite resilient. They can choose to consecrate an objective, and then until the enemy takes the objective off you, your Cities of Sigmar units have a 6+ ward save. So that's pretty cool. And then they've got Hold the Line as well, which means that if a friendly unit receives all-out defense, they can also get the advantage of it too. So you can kind of like chain these units together, which is pretty nice. Your Free Guild Cavaliers are your kind of heavy cavalry. They've got a 3+ save, 2 wounds each, they're quite quick. On the charge they get an extra rend in damage, so your basic ones are doing 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, -1 rend, 1 damage. With the different abilities we've seen in here, it's quite easy to have that as 2+ to hit, 2+ to wound, just from like auras and stuff. And obviously send in the Cavalier Marshal as well, and they can fight immediately after him too, so really like the Cavaliers, I think they're fun. The Free Guild Fusiliers, I think we'll see a lot of on the battlefield. These are your replacements of your old handgunners. If they stand still, they ignore negative rend, which is cool because they're kind of like fortified. They also get further range and more attacks, which is cool. If they move, they lose that, but obviously we've seen if they're under the influence of the move order, they still get the benefits of standing still, so that's pretty awesome. They've also got a little squire that they can use once per game to basically reload their shots, and that essentially gives them reroll hits, so I think they're really, really cool. The Fusel Major on the Ogre, this is the big ogre with the sniper on the top. He increases the range of a friendly unit within 12 inches, rolls a d6, and the range of their guns increased by that. So that's pretty cool. He's got the fortified position thing as well, so if he stands still, there's no negative rend going through, so he just gets his base save, which is 3+ on this guy. And he's a bit of a sniper, so if he gets 3 shots on his gun, if he rolls a 6 to hit, he can choose it to be a crack shot, and that means if you can roll at least double the wounds characteristic, you just slay that model. So if you've got like heavily armoured elite infantry who've maybe got like a 2+ save, but they've only got, you know, 1 wound each, do that, because on a 2+ you just slay the model. So pretty cool, I quite like him. We've then got the Ironworld Great Cannon. This is like a jack of all trades cannon. It's got a few different types of shot it can do, from a 2-shot, rend 4, d6 damage, all the way up to a 5-shot, 1 rend 2 damage, and then in the middle you've got kind of like more reliable damage but less potential. So you've got a range of different ways you can do it, like with all the other stuff in here as well. You've got the fortified position, so if it stays still, it's got a 4+ save, it doesn't take any rend. Again, all of these characters have got that same Castellite keyword, so they synergize really well with grey water fastness and the artifact that lets all out attack also give you +1, meaning that a lot of these units are going to be hitting on 3s and wounded on 3s, 2s with the cannons and stuff. So yeah, really, really nice, and I think we'll see a lot of them in the game. And then finally, the last new unit that's introduced is the Wildercorp Hunters. So this is the Warcry unit, and they're actually really, really good. These are like your forward scouts. So at the start of the game, they get to make a move. What's interesting is while they're in cover, they increase their rend by 1. So 2 shots each, hitting on 4s, wounded on 4s, but they'll have 2 rend on their guns, making them pretty good. Yeah, I quite like these guys. So yeah, there's lots of cool stuff in this book. Now obviously a lot of stuff has gone, but a lot of the old dwarf units, a lot of the old, well, all the old dwarf units, all the old dark elf units are still in the book. And a lot of the old Empire stuff like the steam tank and the flagellants and the Luminarch and all that stuff is still in there. So yeah, I do suspect that in the future we'll see some of this elf stuff go. And like I say, I might do another video where we look into what's changed on these other units, but yeah, it would have been a really long video if we looked at all that. A quick look at the points as well. There's quite a lot of battle line options, as you'd expect. There's some new conditional battle lines too. So the new gunners, for example, they get to be, your single unit gets to be a battle line for each other battle line unit in the army for the steel helms, which is pretty good. The cavalry can also be battle line as well if the general's free guild. So you've got lots and lots of ways of building different types of armies. Interestingly, I quite like Sylvaneth can't be allies in a grey water fastness army because they're at war with them. So yeah, really, really nice book. Now, we did paint up some of the other models in here. We've had a look at the Marshal. We'll have a quick look at the Alchemist fella. Again, really, really nice model, and I enjoyed painting him up. It's been a bit of a mad rush to get these done in time for the review, so hopefully I should have the rest of the army painted up, and I'd like to do a battle report with them too. I've also painted up one of the steel helms, the new infantry units. So the new transfers look really good on those shields. I'm quite happy with him. But my favourite model is the new cavalry. I think they look really, really nice. And there's actually 15 different heraldry designs on the transfer sheet. So if you've got 3 units of them in your army, you can have them all looking different. They're quite customizable as well, and they've all got their own distinct look. The kind of more, I guess, classical knights, where they've got their own kind of like family heraldry and stuff on there, rather than being all kind of liveried up for the city that they're from. So yeah, quite like that. So yeah, that was a look at the new Cities of Sigmar Army set. That is up for pre-order today and is released next Saturday. Again, a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us an early copy to have a look at. I have done a full deep dive over on spruesandbrews.com as well, so if you'd rather read this, I've got all the information in there, go into all the traits and the spells and all the enhancements. So yeah, check that out. If you would like to support the site as well, in the comments I've got an affiliate link to Element Games. If you order your copy through there, we get a little bit of a kickback, which helps support the site. And if you have liked this, why not like the video and give us a follow so you can see when we upload new ones. We do lots of unboxings and reviews, and once I've got these painted up, I'll maybe add a few more old Cities of Sigmar models, but I want to get some battle reports on with these to show off the new order mechanic, because that's really fun. So yeah, until next time, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.